Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. So today we're going to be checking out a complete modular charge system from CHARSOON. And this is going to be kind of interesting. I'm going to be putting this all together, unboxing it, and showing you what it's all about. It's basically a system that lets you charge all different kinds of batteries like this with all different adapters in an interchangeable form factor where you don't have to have one huge charger that does multiple things. You don't have to have multiple different chargers that have their own plugs to do different things. You have one power station, and then you have all these attachments you can link together as you see fit or as you need. You can get them all if you want. You can get them one by one if you want. But they're going to allow us to charge all different kind of charge connectors in one whole system. So we're going to go ahead and unbox this and review it today and see how it goes. So stay tuned and let's get started. Okay, cool. So this is the first time I've actually unboxed these. So I'm going to start with the big one, and I believe this is going to be the power station. So it's the biggest box, and we open this up. There is an instruction manual. There's also some numbers. They've got this kind of number system here. And when we open this up, we have the instructions on the main unit. So it tells us the programming and what everything does in here. And it also gives us a diagram on how to kind of connect each module together and what they all do. So a lot of information in there, and it's in English, and it seems like it's pretty well done. So here's the first main item here. And there we go. So it is the main brain of the unit. All the other ones attached to this one, so you're going to need to get this one first. And here is the little bit of a screen shield there we can peel off and see that we've got an LCD screen. And when you buy this one, you actually, I should mention that you do get this. So this was in this plastic bag. I just took it out. But it's basically a power brick. And so this is the power brick, and this is the end that you're going to be plugging into the base station. And then it also comes with, it basically looks like a standard computer plug. So if you're familiar with the plugs that computer uses, this is the same thing, and you're going to be plugging this into the power brick. What's curious is these guys also included this cable here, and it's saying that it's for the DJI Inspire Magical Cell B connecting line. So I'm going to have to see what that does once we get this all assembled and see how we're going to use this. So we'll plug this guy in just a second. Just wanted to show you a little more in depth of what this thing looks like. So you spin it around to the sides, you can see that it has these covers on the end. It's got some venting in here, and all it has is the power and then a micro USB port. I believe that's for programming, and that's really it. And then what we got is we've got these little ends here that we can pop off, and you can see how this is how we're going to be linking each module to either end of this. So we pop this other one off, and we have a similar type of port on that side. You can see how it's basically the same thing. One's just female and one's male with prongs here. That's the first one you get. And let's move on to the A. You can see how these are all lettered from A to C here. They have these little letters on each box. So we'll go ahead and start with A. Take this guy out of the box and see what this is. So this is our first module, and let's see what kind of connectors it's got. There we go. Okay, so this is basically, it looks like a balance connector. So this is going to give you up to, it looks like around 6S of balance connection for charging. There's a little light there. And that's really all this thing is. So you could balance one battery, it looks like, with this guy here. Of course, you can link in multiple if you wanted to. And that's what's cool about this system. But it's got the same kind of connectors on each side. So that is going to be the A unit, and here's how they go together. So I'm going to take the male side, which is the left side of this one, and I'm going to go into the female side of this one. So you could go either way you wanted to. You could put this on this side as well, and as long as the male is going into the female. So for this instance, let's go ahead and put it on the right side. So we're just lining up those little slot notches and then pushing down until it clicks. There we go. So you just push down, you get a nice satisfying snap in, and that thing's not going anywhere unless you push it back up like this. So you push up and then you pull out. So we're going to put this to the side and start I'll keep going with the B box. So opening this one up, they all basically do look very much the same. And this one has the same kind of connections on both ends. Nothing except this connector here. So this connector actually looks like that's what this one's for. This extra one they gave me in the box here looks like it's going to connect into there. If you have a DJI Inspire, I guess that's, I don't have a DJI Inspire, but I guess this is the plug you use to charge it perhaps. So you just line up that top notch there, push it in, and there you go. You can charge something with this connection here. Let me give you a little bit more of a detail on that connection there. So that's what it is. It does look like some of the older DJI Phantom connections as well, so maybe you'll be able to charge that also. We'll just keep going over to the right here. I just snapped that one in, so there's another one. I'm going to go ahead and just unplug this cable for now, and let's move on to the C. So we'll unbox the C really quick here and see what we get on this one. Okay, so this looks like a multi-port USB charger. It's basically the same thing all the way around. And so there we go. We got a balance, a DJI Inspire charger, and a 5-volt 2-amp 4-port USB hub there. Okay, and the last box I have here to review is the D box. And let's see what this is. Again, there's no manual in these small boxes, and this is what I'm interested in. So here is little Pico connector chargers, and it looks like they give you 2 per rail. These are the little micro loci Wakera chargers, and these are JST charging plugs, ports. So you have 3 different ones. These are prevalent, you know, in usually toy quadcopters up to 3S in some racing quadcopters, and then these are the majority of the 1S toy quadcopters. Will take this one. This is the micro loci Wakera plug. And then the little Pico ones are usually for those little micro quadcopters that are like the tiny Whoop replicas, and they use those tiny batteries that use this type of connector. So those are our options, and then it's telling us the output. It can do 1 to 2S, and the max is 400 milliamp of charging amperage. So that's 0.4 of an amp. So we're going to slide this one from the bottom and pull it up. I'm not sure if they have anything after D at the moment. So in essence, they are taking care of you because you can charge on the balance plug. You can charge all these batteries, just use the balance only. Of course, they are going to charge a little bit slower. I'm not sure if I saw a amperage on this, a maximum amperage on this balance, but it's definitely going to be much slower than if you had a regular charger and we're charging with the main charge port, in this case this Dean's connector, and also the balance. I'd imagine that maybe this is limited to maybe 1 amp of charging through the balance charger on this. Anyway, let me plug this guy in right here, plug it into the wall, and let's see what this thing can do. So what we do first is we make sure it's empty with just the brain here, and then we're going to plug in the brain, and we're going to get our power on. And there we go. And what we're seeing up here is this is basically the cell number. So it's going to go between the cell number. So whatever it's going to be displaying here, it's actually not displaying anything right now. There's no cells hooked up, so it's not counting the brain as a cell number. So when you hook up 1 cell, 2 cell, 3 cells, and whatever screen it's displaying, that's going to be the number there. Hence why they kind of give you these stickers to help you out. And by the way, you can go up to 16 cells on this thing, is what the instructions are saying. So you can see that I have put it in storage, so I want to go out of storage. But let's just go over actually first on screen what we're seeing here. So we have our voltage coming in, we have which cell we're displaying, we have our mode, which is either going to be storage or charge, voltage, amperage, milliamp hour, time since charging or whatever it's doing, what type of battery we can do, and then these would be the cells. Whoops. Can actually push the screen. So actually this is going to be the display if you're using that balance charger little cell there. So we're going to go into our settings, And here we can adjust all of the charge peripherals and the brightness of the display, the fail-safe shut-off for the charger. And then we click here and we can put it in different modes. It was in store, so I'm going to click here and I'm going to put it into charge. So you can see we only can do 2 modes, store and charge. That is kind of a loud beep actually. And then we have LiPo Life, LiPo High Voltage, and those are the 3 we can charge. We can't charge anymore. And then we have the mode where you can either see the C rating of the battery, what it's going to be charging at, the amperage, or just the regular amperage. I like just the regular amperage. We're going to press on this tab again up here, and this is where you're going to configure your cell. So hopefully you can see that in a little bit of the glare, but what we'd like to do in this one here is I'm going to call this cell with all these mini connectors for charging. I'm going to call this one cell 1. So what we do is we go ahead and go on to 1, press OK, and you can see there's an X there. I find that this might be the best way to do it. And then we just go ahead and slide our cell on. So I've actually already configured this, but this light will be white. And what you do is you press down this is where the instructions get kind of confusing. There's no indication that you have to press down in the instructions. So you press down on this arrow, and then you're gonna see, you need to see some firmware information. And when you see that firmware information, you're gonna see a check mark. And that means it sees this cell. And then all you need to do, you don't really need to press OK again, but I'm just gonna do it for safe measure. And then you press back. Okay, and the good way to test this thing is you go all the way back to the main menu, and you're gonna see a menu like this, and that's indicating that cell 1 is displaying, and this is the menu. And it looks actually good because there's 6 different menus here, and we have 6 different charge ports, so we know that this is matching up. Just to test it before we connect something else, let's go ahead and just plug in a little JST battery here, right in there, and let's see if we get any readings off of this here. So there we go. So it switched to work. They chose to call it work instead of charging for some reason, and it's showing what it's charging at and the amperage. And this one seems to be pretty good at not going too high for what the battery can handle. You can see how the amperage is only 0.2 amps at a charge rate. And this is, I believe, only a 200 milliamp hour battery, so it's picking the correct charge rate. So it's not going to over charge the battery. It's not going to charge it at too high of an amperage. So we want to connect another cell, and what I found is the best way to do that is to power the thing off. Once you have all these cells connected, you don't have to do this again. Disconnect that cell. And that's labeled 1, remember. And then we're going to call the balance charger. We're going to call this number 2. So this is the balance where you can just charge any battery that has a balance port on here. So we'll go ahead and slide that. Actually, don't slide it on yet. We want to power back up. Again, once you do all this, you don't have to do it again unless you want to change the numbers around. Okay, so we have the same menu again, the basic menu. We go into our settings, we go into tab, we go into file, and then we're going to call this number 2. So we press OK. We're going to get the X because I think it's waiting for this cell or a cell, and then we go ahead and slide this thing on. There we go. And don't forget to press down. Oops. I want to call this 2. And we want to make sure we press down. There we go. I was pressing to the right by accident. So when I pressed down, it saw and it read the firmware inside of here, and it designated to a number 2. So I'm just going to press OK for good measure. I'm not sure if you have to press that. And then we're going to go all the way back to our main screen, and we can see that the light is now yellow. Before you configure it like that, it's going to be white. So let's go ahead and test a battery that has a balance port. There is a negative little inscription here, and then there's a positive on this side. So we want to start from the negative side, and we want to make sure we plug it in correctly, and we just plug that straight in there. And then we're going to see some information pop up. So check that out. So it automatically detected what cell was plugged in. It gave us a 2 icon up here on the cell. And then it's giving us information up here. It's in charge mode. And here's all the information here. So it's giving you per cell information, what the voltage is at per cell, and what the total voltage is and how fast it's charging it. It's charging at 1 amp right now. And over here we can see we have our time, how much milliamp hour it's put into the battery, and what LiPo it is, what type of battery and how many cells. So it's a 2S battery and status is charging. And we're going to call this one 3, right? So we're going to 3, press OK, and knows that there's nothing there. So we want to slide it on. We get our lights going. Okay, so that initially is not going to be green. That's going to be white initially because I've already done this. So we're going to call this number 3. I'm going to press down. Oops, we want to make sure we do press down. There, okay. Press a little bit below the arrow and you'll get it. So we get a check mark with our firmware. We know that it's reading that. And we're going to go back. Whoop. What happened there? Let's go back to 3. There we go. Okay, backspace. Alright, there we go. So now it's not going to be on this screen yet. You can see how this is the balance connector screen. There we go. So it automatically switched to this screen. So there's our 4 different split screens there for our 4 different ports. And this is kind of cool. If you want to charge anything with USB, you just plug in a USB cable. In this instance, I'm going to go ahead and plug in my cell phone. And we'll just plug in there and see what it says. Cool, so there we go. So we have a readout. We have 5 volts coming out of there and we're charging at 0.6 amps. And it's telling you how much milliamp hours it has put into the device. So that's cool because normally with USB plugs like this, just the little simple ones you have for your cell chargers or whatever, your cell phone or anything, you don't get this information on that kind of stuff. So that's kind of new. I like having that information there if you wanted to. And of course you can do all 4 and then all 4 devices will be showing up and how much power it's putting into each one. It tells us it's in USB mode here on the right. And don't forget it's also telling us what cell number we're displaying on the screen. So last thing we want to do is connect them all up and see how it performs when we have multiple things charging. This is my number 1. I'm going to put it here. And this is my number 2. I'm going to put it on this side. Make sure those are all in tight. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3 is what these cells are designated at. Then we'll go ahead and power in. I believe you can connect them without actually unplugging if you wanted to. But for this instance, we'll just do that just to be safe. Alright, cool. So everything is a-okay here. Let me get the camera down a little bit so you guys can see what's going on here. And we want to start plugging multiple things in and see what it does. So the first thing I'm going to plug in is one of these batteries on the balance port. So go ahead and plug this battery in right here. Okay, so that's plugged in. It switches to cell 2, and that's our balance port, and showing us what's going on. It's charging. Cool, and then we can see the red light on there as charging. So the second one I want to do is going to be a few batteries on this one. Oh, and by the way, if you have an end cap, you can just put this end cap on, slide it on so you don't have that connector sticking out, which is kind of nice. I have the end cap already on this one. So you have a nice solid finished product here once you get the cells you want on there. Okay, so the second thing I want to put on, this is a 2 cell. It does have a balance port, so you should probably be charging this with a balance. I'd recommend probably just using this for 1 cell batteries, this one, but I'm just going to plug a 2 in and let's see what happens. So that's plugged in and let's see what our screen looks like. So it detected it and we saw this light turn red and it switched to the 1 cell module, and it's showing us how much it's charging at and everything. So Great, so that worked good. And let's go ahead and plug in another battery with the JST connector on this one. So I'm going to plug that in there, and let's see if it detects it. Yep, so on the bottom left there you can see that that one is now charging. So working very well, we can charge multiple things. And the last thing I want to do is go ahead and plug in my my phone here. So I'll go ahead and just plug it in to this USB port. That's plugged in, and it switches over to the USB screen. And there we go. There it is, charging and all the information. So we have 3 different things charging on 3 different cells. Of course, if we wanted to, we could keep plugging in items here. Let's plug in another JST battery there, right on top. That should switch now over to that cell, or maybe not. That's not going to switch. And let's try to switch it manually. So here's how you switch the screens if you have multiple things going. You press on this little tab here, and you see how it's switched to this item. And when it's switched, this light blinks, so it tells you which cell it's switching to. Let's try that again. I want to make sure this thing is charging. Yes, it is. That's charging. That's... oh, okay, that's... it didn't switch because that was already fully charged. So that's why that didn't trigger the switching. You can see how it says over there. That means that these things are all fully charged, and this one is charging. There. Cool. So that's that module. Let's press this and see what happens. So pressing it, you can see how that one blinked, and now we're in the balance charger port. And there goes the fan. So you can hear that fan kick on. There is a fan in the main module, and you can see these ports here. I'm feeling air being sucked in there, and then actually the air is blowing through all the different modules, the different cells. So that's actually kind of neat. It's a kind of all-inclusive cooling system. Anyhow, that's how that thing works. It seems to be working pretty good. And keep in mind that you can put up to 16 cells on this thing, which is kind of cool. So if you had like a shop or a bench in your garage that you're working on and you're doing stuff like this and needs these kinds of charging ports, you could go ahead and do, you know, gosh, a 16 cell bar and have a whole bunch of balance ports, a whole bunch of these ports, a whole bunch of USB ports. So I may be using this more and more since I do my reviews and I have to charge a lot of batteries like this and batteries like this, and of course a lot of these little mini quads use USB plugs now to charge them. This is the A through D box set here, so I'm not sure what other stuff they're going to come out with, but keep your eyes open. There may be some different cells that you're going to be able to pop on with different types of charge ports. But I think this kind of takes care of the main ones that people are going to use, because you can charge any battery you want with this balance cell here, and of course you can put multiple on. And then you can charge all of the most popular little mini batteries like this with this one. I guess that's the only con for this. I couldn't get these kind of well-known batteries for, you know, the Tiny Whoop replica planes and all other mini RC planes to charge, just because I think the polarity is reversed. So what you might need to do for this is make your own adapter cable and have that polarity reversing in the cable, and then plug that cable in to those if you wanted to charge off of these. So that's the only con I can see. Everything else is pretty good. The instructions are a little hard to follow. There's a little bit of Chinglish in there, and so I hope this video does help you put it together and keep it going. Just remember that you need to designate the cell and have it read the firmware and designate the number of the cell before you go ahead and connect it all up like this and get everything going. Otherwise you're not going to have this on-screen display and it's not going to all be working. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed that little unbox, setup, and review of the CHARSOON Magic Cell Charger. And that was informative for you. Don't forget, I'll have the link down in the description down there, so check that out, see what the pricing is and more specs on it if you are interested. And I will see you guys in the next one. Thanks for watching.